welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. I'm Dave and I'm joined today by Neil Johnson, friend, guitar buddy and serial gear addict.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday and they was asking about their kids wanting to start guitar. Says, is it an expensive hobby? And I said, well, the good news is it's never been cheaper to start to learn, but once you get into it you do think, God, I should have chosen a cheaper hobby like heroin.
Going back, my first electric guitar, and I remember it, I pestered my parents for it, and it was, if anybody can remember out there, it was a Columbus Les Paul, it came with a little practice amp, and the practice amp would have been, it wasn't even a Fender 15, that Fender Frontline 15 that they do now, it was, some really wacky thing like Sun amp, but not like a Sun amp, and that was second hand in about we'll say mid 80s,
a few decades ago,
mid 80s, and that was £150 because there wasn't this influx of stuff from China. And now when you see what's available for a starter pack that is in relative, £150 back in the 80s is probably what, 300 or 400 now, maybe something like that. And then the original pack used to get like a Fender Squire starter kit with a strap and stuff like that. That was a couple £100. This Columbus and amp was second hand. That was £150 second hand in about I'm guessing 86, something like that. Yeah, sure, maybe. But nowadays gear has never been more affordable, and we'll probably come on to this later. But what I do think is really benefited people at the moment, and hate it or love it, and I've got some, and I've got modelling stuff versus real stuff, but what you can buy now in the way of one pedal back in the 80s was like £50, which was a lot of money for just to get one DS1 or an SD1 or something like that. You can buy a multi-effects now for £100. It's got
good quality. It's not some knockoff. It's a really good.
Sitting in my rack drawer at home is a Line 6 M5, which is the 100 stomp box models. You can only have one at a time, but it's got 16 presets. But you know what? If you just want to put that into an amp, you can have a chorus pedal. It's got a Dimension C on. It's got an emulated Dimension C, which is at the moment it's just been reissued, and it's about £200, and you can pick up that pedal for probably £69 new.
So somebody wanting to kind of experiment, say, what do I want? Chorus? Do I want phaser? Do I want a flanger? Do I want try chorus or anything like that? You can kind of dial in and say,
you can dial them in. You just can't have more than one.
But it's a good way to experiment and find out what's your. Because I made this mistake years ago. I know now what I needed was a medium gain drive pedal, and I ended up buying a distortion pedal because it's the same thing. And no, it's not the same thing, because I didn't understand. I hadn't really tried fuzz and drive and distortion and metal and pedals and all that next to each other. So you can experiment quite
cheaply. I mean, the problem, one of the best bits of gear for a starter at the moment is pick up, and you don't need an amp to do this. And this is no favouritism to Line 6. I've got some Line 6 stuff. I've got some other stuff. But Line 6 do this desktop amp called the Amplify TT, and I've got one, and I picked it up in the Black Friday deal, last year, and I paid about £60 for it. It works as an interface, so you can plug it into your computer, so it'll come through your monitors on your computer. You can put it into a desk. You can use it live. You can buy a floor controller for it, and I picked that up for. In fact, I remember sending you the link. Saying, have a look at this. It was at the sale. It was about £70, and literally it will have, and you can have 6 effects at once, as many amps as you like. You can have 2 amps running on it, and it's absolutely amazing bit of quality.
And decent amps, because that's back in the day you used to have like headphone jack on your cheap little knockoff amp, and it sounded horrible and fizzy because it wasn't doing speaker emulation. But the thing now, you've got impulse responses and all this.
It's got everything on it. I mean, it's not a Kemper, you could use this thing live. You could take it, plug it into a desk, buy the floor controller, and you will have 32 banks of 4 presets. So do the maths on that. That's 128 different presets on it. But that said, it's as a start. I mean, it's cheaper than buying a £99 amp that you can only use. This will allow you to record. You get I think you get something like you might get Cubase Lite with it, or one of the other ones, or Pro Tools First. That comes with it. It will do everything you want it to do, and it sounds really good. It's the same stuff that's in the Line 6 pod, you know, the 500X. Yeah. It's a bit older than the Helix, so it hasn't got as many sounds as that. But then, you know, you want to spend a little bit more, and you can buy the HX Stomp, which is £400 or thereabouts, which is exactly the same as a full-size Helix in a box that big. Yeah. It's got 3 buttons on it. You could use it live. It would probably be a bit, you know, you'd have to program the preset in the order of your set list to do it. Yeah. But if you're willing to do that, it's got, it's slightly less powerful than the Helix and the Helix Lite.
But the Helix, like,
it's just
so much. It's like a
supercomputer
compared to what we had back in the day. So.
I didn't actually realise the Helix did as much as it did until I saw there was a guitar off between Nina Strauss and I can't remember her name, but the female guitarist out of Effervescence.
Oh, Gemma Jura.
Yeah,
she
uses that. So
Nina
Strauss was using. She just uses the GT1000, the Boss, into the desk. Jen uses the Helix into the desk. That's it. And the pitch shifting, you know, for detuning. Yeah. She said she used to have to take 11 guitars on tour for all the different, you know, like drop D or down into C or whatever they're doing, open E and stuff like that. Now she just does it all on there, and it sounded so good. You know, I mean, I use a Boss drop pedal, Digitech drop pedal, and it's fine for dropping 1 or 2 tones. Anything more than that, it just, you know, you wouldn't want to be in standard tuning and dropping down to like A or B, because it just wouldn't. It will do it, but it just sounds electronic, it sounds mechanical. This one just sounded great. So you get all that, and it's a lot of money. I mean, a Helix will cost you, a full Helix will probably cost, what, £800-900, maybe even £1,000.
But as a professional piece of gear, and I was just looking at like my pedal board the other day, adding up, you know, because
you add them
like
all up.
£100 for that one, and that's a bit boutique, so that's probably, you know, a little bit more.
That's £150 for the angry down and stuff like that.
Yeah, it all adds up. It's probably, I could, for the same money, have got the full. I don't really do the multi-effects thing. I like the simplicity.
More and more people are moving towards them now, and
I think one thing that's driving that is the whole silent stage thing. Not having the amps on stage. You've got, because it's much better for your hearing, because you haven't got like the AC/DC approach of dozens of Marshall 4x12
amps switched on.
You know, 100 watt amps going into them. You can have everything, like you say, it just goes direct to the desk. It's a nice clean stage setup. You can rock up somewhere. You don't have to worry so much about sound checks. It's much more efficient.
It's also for people who do fly gigs, and you can literally just take your pedal. You know, you have your Helix in a flight case. It'll go in an overhead locker on a plane, and that's it done. And if anything was to go horribly, horribly wrong, you'd have a memory stick. You know, I've got the backup of my Line 6 stuff was backed up. I used to have an M13, which I haven't got anymore. I've still got the M5. But I used to use a Pod HD 500X. I used to use it as the sounds, but I also used it to control like amp switching, and it was a MIDI controller for the rest of the rack and stuff. I haven't got that one anymore. But I used to have all the backups on a pen drive. I used to have them on my phone. Yeah. So literally, if anything was to happen, you could go down to your local, you know, guitar centre, whatever it is, and just, you know, worst case scenario is, can I borrow that one, or can I just have that, load it back on, and you're ready to go again. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I've heard some horror stories of particularly American airliners like destroying pedal boards because they pulled them off and cables have come out and it's been unusable.
Did you see the video retro?
Yeah,
I mean, that was just one.
They just pulled. They
just completely twatted one end of his pedal board, but he cut out of him on stage.
He didn't even get that far. Yeah. He never even got, and it was his biggest gig, wasn't it? 100,000 people.
Yeah, it's big.
And in London, it was TWA. You know, they literally, the bit that pulled up, they just yanked it up. And like, obviously they broke a cable, because when he did another video with the guy that built it afterwards, trying to sort it out. And I mean, it was an angled 1/4-inch jack that was bent. So I mean, it could have damaged the pedals or anything. But you know what? I mean, the one thing I'll say something about that. What he actually did to get by, he went straight into a box AC30, and he played the whole thing with a volume control.
Which is a sign of a professional guitarist.
But also it shows that because let's be honest, you know, the Beatles did not have a pedal board, you know, the size of a guitar case. They just didn't. People went into the amps. You know, there's still people out there now who use a couple of amps and that's it, and they have an A/B switch that isn't even done by them.
Yeah.
And it's done by their guitar tech or a roadie.
Yeah.
And that's all they're doing. There's none of this switching in and out. I mean, going back to the multi-effects thing though, the one thing, and this is why I do actually recommend them, and why they're so good. If you look at a pedal board like that, and you add up there, that will have cost more than a Helix. Okay.
Oh yeah, undoubtedly. Even just when you add in all the other stuff like the cables and the
absolutely. And not taking in the fact that like the Helix will act as an audio interface, so you don't need an audio interface down there, over there. But what this allows you to do, because none of these are MIDI controlled, you have to say, right, that's my setting on my flashback.
Yeah.
That's my setting on my reverb. Whereas with a multi-effects, you can add the delay in, and you can have the delay on that patch to be, a dotted eighth.
Yeah.
Then on the next one, it can be just on a normal, slapback and stuff like that. That's where you sort of lose out on those pedals. But they're analog and they do what they're supposed to do.
I just like this. I prefer the simplicity of it. I've used multi-effects before, and I just never kind of gelled with them. I really appreciate what they do and get the flexibility in that, but no, I like just that kind of setup.
Yeah, I mean, and it is just the whole, that is. But you've got to take into consideration that, like, to power all that, a decent power supply isn't cheap.
Yeah.
To get something that's going to do that properly without any, fuzz.
Isolation and all that.
Not any fuzz, any noise. People like fuzz.
Yeah.
But and then you've got to put it on a board. Now, a decent board. Well, and I've got one. I mean, I have a board that's twice the size of that has a MIDI floor controller on it, has a volume control, has a wireless in it, a second wireless on there. It also has a looper, a boost, and other stuff that I can control my feet that aren't controlled by MIDI. And it literally is another block bigger than that on the back.
Yeah.
And it's the case that it comes in is this big.
Yeah.
But you've got to buy that as well. Whereas with a Helix, it's literally you can buy a soft case for it if you're happy with that. It's got a footprint of that, and that's it. One power cable, stuff like that, and you're mounting the power underneath and the stuff.
Yeah.
But gear has never been as affordable as it is now, and whether going on to the whole we're not getting to Chinese economy and stuff like that, but. It genuinely it has helped.
Yeah, there are so many guitars. Like when we first started playing, like the Japanese was the budget. It was the budget end of the market, but now
they weren't
Japanese
cheap.
is relatively mid-range to high-end. Relatively speaking, the beginner stuff. It's
the ESP custom shop is Japanese.
Yeah,
they have actually just opened in America, I believe.
Yeah.
But the Takamine custom shop is, and I mean the Japanese. Their workmanship is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Obviously when you go to like Taiwan, Malaysia, Chinese, you might get a fantastic guitar. You might not, but they're built for speed and they're built for cheapness. Yeah. But I mean to think that you could go down and buy a Floyd Rose equipped, shredding guitar with a decent fast neck. And you can pick one of those up for £129. It's just it's outstanding. The parts alone to buy on that, you couldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you will find. I mean, I found this with my before.
Yeah, I know it's
the fretwork might be a bit shonky, or the setup like that. Certainly, the nut was cut too high, and that. But generally, it's stuff that you can get your local guitar guy to fix for maybe 100 or so quid to make it all good and healthy. To go out and buy a more expensive, like a guitar with that level of quality, you'd be paying more than you would for the guitar tech.
And that said, I had a 2014 Gibson Les Paul that needed exactly the same doing on it.
Yeah.
It was the worst fret job my guitar tech he'd ever seen out the factory. So there was that one, and I mean that needed a serious amount of work to get it playable. And when it was playable, it was okay. I also have, and I didn't bring it today because obviously we'll come down to the fact that I do have serious gear acquisition syndrome at the moment. I had one of the Ed O'Brien Strats on order before they came out, and it's a lovely Strat. The neck was so bowed, Robin Hood could have put an arrow on it and shot the Sheriff of Nottingham with that one, because it was like a boomerang.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, straighten up the neck and it was perfect.
Yeah.
But that's the Mexican quality control. One of the guitars I no longer have that I did get rid of, so we'll never be able to do like a show and tell on it. I had an Epiphone Custom Shop Koa Les Paul that was absolutely beautiful, and it setup was, and you played it, didn't you?
It
was amazing, absolutely amazing. It wasn't new, so there was a chance that it did go to somebody else to be set up. But I mean, the frets inside the binding, you haven't got binding on there. There's nothing with a binding on here, but we'll show some later. But the way that it was set inside, like so I had a 2014 Les Paul that was shocking. I then had a 2015, which is their really bad year when they had the tuner, the
Robo tuners,
G-Force, and the Les Paul autograph in the middle instead of Les Paul. That one was really good. But even the finishing, because it had the binding, it had the full bound neck like a standard. I think we did a thing on it. So go and look at that video on there, because it was a standard, but it was thinner and it had a belly scoop on it. But even where the binding is, where the frets on, wasn't brilliant.
Yeah.
But then you take this Epiphone Custom Shop one, and it was absolutely amazing. Yeah. Absolutely just. And I mean, I sold that one, and that guitar is the fastest selling guitar I've ever had. It sold in 10 minutes of me advertising it, and I had so many people wanting it because it was priced reasonably, and the Koa top was like 3/4 of a centimetre thick. It was like the same. It was actually the same thickness as that, because you could see it under the binding there. It was just unbelievable. So you can get really good guitars that have come from the Far East that are just outstanding.
So we've got like the high, people tend to think like the USA ones are the best, and then the further east you go. But what you got here is not from any of the usual suspect countries.
No.
What is this one?
So this is a Godin. So this is actually made in Canada.